I think honestly, like the performance has like our culture, society in a daggone chokehold. And to be quite honest with you, it still has me a lot. And I think it happens more so in like the last like year or two because like the creativity wasn't flowing as easily in areas where it was easily flowing before. And I'm reverting to out of a place of scarcity into this performance mindset where like, all right, then I'm just gonna make sure it's perfect instead of being like me. What is good, y'all? It is your boy Jonathan Dumas, and this is Highly Visible and Little Misunderstood, the show where we talk to the people we see every day because we don't know what we miss until we miss them. And you are hearing my voice right now. You're watching us on the YouTubes, and you're like, where has this boy been? Where has this man been? You feel me? Well, we took a break, an unplanned break, longer than I thought I was going to. Transparently, Trump won, and that didn't put me in a really good place, and I had nothing to say, so I didn't say nothing. Kept my mouth shut and hung out with my family. Been living in the gym just to work out all this stress and everything like that. I'm also, like I said in previous episodes, I'm on the job hunt right now. I'm still working with clients and stuff like that for my business. So it's just like a lot of things that I was juggling. I just needed to put something aside, and the podcast was one of those things. So that's what it is. We are back to close out this series, Performing Authenticity. I wanted to make the series longer, transparently, y'all. And I'm just not gonna. I'm just gonna call it a wraps with this episode. And trust me, it will not disappoint. The guest today is just super dope. Really, really excited for y'all to touch base with her. But Reggie did have a really good idea. So like I said, I'm going to take a break. I don't know how long that break is going to be, but what we're thinking about doing is like having shorter snippets of just me. So the break would actually be from other guests, unless it's like a cool situation or somebody wants to hop on and do something cool. But it would just be, me talking about different things, breaking down some stuff, sharing what's going on, certain things like that. I'm looking to just experiment and have fun over the next few months and have another creative outlet with the show. Speaking of which, I would love to run up the subscriber numbers on our YouTube. So if you are listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever, do me the biggest favor. Go to YouTube, Highly Visible and a Little Misunderstood. Look us up there. The link is also in the show notes for you. Click on that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I really would love to we're at 75 subscribers right now. I want to double that. And I know we have enough listeners on the audio side to do that. So just do that real quick for me. And if you're on YouTube, you're catching this, you're loving the vibe, please do me a favor and just like, subscribe, leave a comment real quick. Comment on my shirt, Black Not Sorry. Shout out my sister for getting this to me. Any of those things. I really, really appreciate it. That is all for the updates and everything like that. On to the guest for this episode. I am sitting down with my wonderful, wonderful friend, Alawna Ozoka. This person, oh my God, is like I met and reconnected with my long lost high school best friend. Legit. We connected on LinkedIn and like LinkedIn comments from a mutual friend, and then we had DMs, and it was just, family ever since. So it was really, really cool to have this like conversation with her and connect with her on a topic that she's also really passionate about. We talk about rest is resistance and how this is not just like something that we have to earn, but it is something that is ours, right? And shout out Trisha Hersey's book, Rest is Resistance, the Manifesto. We also touch on performance culture and authenticity and how they're constantly clashing. And then we talk about having this really deep self-compassion and giving ourselves permission to be ourselves. And I really, really love, just pay attention to how she defines authenticity around this idea of practice and permission. I really, really vibed with that. So that is all from me, y'all. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation with my wonderful friend, Alawna Ozoka. All right, y'all. Yeah. I'm not even gonna do like a little intro thing. I was listening back to some of them and they sound really fake. Like they sound fake as hell when I do this. So
okay. Don't be a fake ass.
Hey, no.
Don't you dare be a fake ass. I'm like, hi, I'm Alawna
Ozoka. So this is all staying in. So I'm just gonna go ahead.
Okay. I love that. That has to be worked question.
That has to be. I'm keeping it. So like I was.
Okay.
So all right. So quick, real quick. All right,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna have you. I'm just gonna like thank you so much for being here, Alana. But Reggie was working on a best of that's gonna like drop hopefully this week or early next week of like
Okay.
2024 videos that were on YouTube, and he was putting in all of like the so like thank you so much for joining whatever like putting all these compilations. And I sound so
Yeah.
fake at some of them. I'm like, I don't even talk like that. Like, what's going on here,
Mm-hmm.
bro? So it was
Yeah.
just really funny. So I didn't want to do that, in this conversation. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
We're aware.
anyway,
We're aware, and we're pivoting.
yes. So, so Alana, thanks so much for coming through. We were already having like a really good pre conversation before we hopped on, and maybe some of that is in, maybe it's not. I don't know. But I just want to give the floor to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I just want to give the floor to you. Like, just introduce folks of who you are. Yeah, calling me out for being fake. You know what I mean? Like,
We'll have
so the
fake
folks who,
checkpoints. We'll
yes,
check. We'll check through in the episode.
I love it.
Um,
So yeah, the floor is yours. Just tell the folks who you are and a little bit about
well,
yourself.
yes, my name is Alawna Ozoka. By trade, I'm a certified professional life and leadership coach. I'm an Amazon bestselling author of Awareness Put Me On. But I think more importantly, I'm just a human figuring it out. My goal in life is just to leave it a little bit better than I found it. And so I'm hoping this conversation allows folks to give themselves a little bit more permission just to be.
Yeah, I like that. And what's so interesting, so I don't even remember how we connected, Alana, but I know it was through LinkedIn. I just don't remember how. Was it in the comment section of one of our mutual friends? I
It
can't
was
remember.
likely in the comments section that turned
Yeah.
into DMs
Yeah.
that we did the same coaching program, and then it was just
Yes.
family from there.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right off top. Like I was like, oh man, I feel like we went to school together and we got in trouble in class or something like that because we wouldn't stop talking or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was like really, really cool. Like even the first time we chatted and then the subsequent times that we chatted, even before then. But I knew that I wanted to like do some kind of collab with you from a post that I did. I don't remember how long ago I wrote about it, but it was
Hmm.
something about like joy in authenticity and community, and this the laugh and learn is still going to happen because like I think that that's such a really good idea, but I wrote something about that about and just like we connected about just laughing in authenticity and being real, in conversations, even if it's like a sales call. And I think that that was something that I was like, there's not a lot of people that I've met that kind of have this same vibe, except Carissa Pagonia, shout out her. But yeah, I think I remember that. That was kind of like the connection point for me where I was like, I know we need to like do some kind of collab together. I just didn't know what it was going to be at that point. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I got you onto this series, and you are the last person we're having onto this series of authenticity, performing authenticity. And I thought it'd be a good voice to have on here because of that conversation. That's like the impetus of it. So,
Yeah.
um, so let's start here. Like, how would you define authenticity? Yeah, let's
Hmm.
start there.
Well, one, just want to shout out to me for being the closer. I love that for me.
Yes, yes.
But also, I've been keeping up with the series and hearing how others have defined it, and I love how everyone's giving their perspective on it.
Mm,
For me, authenticity is practicing your values and beliefs in real life, very
mm,
simply. And I think that keyword of practicing is really important because, like in our pre-conversation, talking about this like all or nothing. Like if I value creativity and I believe I am a creative, but I haven't produced a piece of content in, let's say, the last 2 weeks when I used to do it every day. Do I actually value creativity? I think you still do. There's a spectrum of it, and we're always practicing towards building up our and expressing our values. So
mm,
not thinking it has to be all or nothing when you're coming into being authentic. You don't have to be the loudest in the room if you value confidence and presence, but it's the way that you express it in doses with your people. And I know we're gonna get to this within systems too, because systems matter, and how you express your authenticity is going to vary based on the systems that allow you to do so.
mm. I like that. In particular, I like what you said around the permissions piece. of practicing your value. Or please say that one more time. I want to make sure I get that accurate.
Yeah, and I'm going to recall it too.
Yeah.
But really, it is authenticity. To me is practicing your values and your beliefs in real life and giving yourself permission for it to not be all or nothing. Like
Yes. Yeah,
100%
yeah.
creative doesn't mean you're doing something every second, but it's within doses, and we're
Yes.
consistently practicing and building up those muscles to express what our values may be.
Yes. So like even those two words, like primarily for me, is the permission and the practice piece, because I think there is like one is already a work of like identifying your values, and I think we're going to talk about that later on. But there's work in doing that, so there is a practice to do that, but also giving yourself permission to allow those things to change, to allow those things to live out in you, however they show up. As long as you're actually doing them, I think that there's something to that. Because again, going back to our pre-conversation around like this idea of creativity, like for me, I haven't really felt creative in a long time. I haven't really felt like, things are flowing out of me as easily. And I'm so thankful for the perspective that you gave. Is just like, there was a lot of different things that were happening in my life. And for me, creativity just probably looked differently. Like, how am I showing up for my partner? How am I showing up for the work that I got going on? How am I showing up for my extended family? How am I taking care of myself? Like, all those things are shifting and changing. But it doesn't mean that my values have changed. It just means the way that I am practicing them has changed. And am I giving myself permission to do that in a way that is true to me, true to myself? And even giving space for me to understand what that may look like in the season that I'm in, which is a lot of, it's a lot of work. It's been a lot of work. A lot. Truly. What does that look like for you? How did you come to kind of like that defining piece for you as far as authenticity?
Long story short is I lived my life for a long time being a people pleaser and
Mm,
trying to mold and fit to where, you know, I'm just enough to be accepted. I'm not making too much noise though to be called out because like no spotlight for me, but it was enough to float by. And I think it really took a turn for me, maybe more in high school, where high school and college for me, I was in predominantly white institutions, typically one of maybe like 10 to 15 people who
mm,
identified as a Black person. And I think becoming a young adult in those spaces, um, I always overthought like how did I need to show up on something that
mm,
was already just new for me, and figuring out coming from a private kindergarten through eighth grade, meeting the same people, and now coming into adulthood with all these people that I don't know, and I don't have a lot of people that look like me, and I also
mm,
am still reckoning with who do I want to become. There was just a tipping point where I was like, F it. I am going to fully be me. I may not feel the most secure in how I look. I may not really where it comes from is I may not look like these other girls.
mm,
Um, I may not be getting the attention from the opposite sex like I would like to at this age of adulthood, but I just really have to fully be me because I'm so tired
mm,
of being somebody else.
mm,
Like I could not do it. And so one day I just woke up. I was like, yeah, not today. So I put on my glasses, which I had a lot of insecurity around being like the tall Black girl in new school with glasses that I didn't feel like made me look my most beautiful self. And I was
mm.
like, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna see this morning. I'm not
Yes.
gonna like sneak put on my glasses.
Just like in
I said,
the
let there be sight.
yes.
And it was just it's so silly to say aloud, but for me, that was such a big moment because I was so
Yeah.
embarrassed for so long.
Mm,
And I was it was like just the weight was lifted and I just did me. And
mm,
per life, because what's for you won't miss you, I found the right people, I found the right friends, I found the right partners. And like
mm,
I'm here today really, really fully embracing like who I am, what I value, and hoping that through my practice and coaching, but also just being a friend and like a community member, like helping folks give themselves just even if it's 1% more permission, just to like really do you, whatever that is. Like,
mm,
how can you do that a little bit more each day?
mm,
So you're building up the muscle that may not be there.
mm. I just want to acknowledge real quickly. First of all, that's like a beautiful story. I love that. But the one thing that I want to acknowledge is like you deciding to put on your glasses so that one that you could just like see and like embracing that. I don't see that as like a small thing. Like I really don't. Like to me, like that doesn't seem like a small thing to me. I feel like that is huge, right? Of like you are denying yourself of like being able to fully see something, and then you saying like, "F it, I'm gonna just like embrace me, and I need these glasses to see." And so like all of a sudden you're able to see, and I think that one step, like here you are. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and it goes into this next question about me asking you how do you support your clients in doing this, but it's always that first step because I'm trying to remember what my first step was of like where I was where I like truly felt like I said F it and I'm gonna like do this for myself, and it might have been me growing out my hair. I think it might have been me growing out my hair. I think I missed like a barber appointment once, and then twice,
Mm.
and then I just kept it going. And I was like, I'm just gonna keep it. So I think even for me, it's like the growing out my hair and not keeping it short anymore. That might have been mine. Um, so I no, I don't think it's small. I just want to say that I think that that's like a huge moment. I don't know how you look back on that now or anything like that, but that's just like really really cool because so other people probably didn't think anything of it, but like to you it was so huge. You know what I mean?
Oh, and if that's not human lives and experiences of how, knowing that there are situations where it is big, but
Yeah.
for us, we can just inflate things and create our
Mm.
own stories about ourselves. And really, half the time, the world's just like, okay, you
Yeah.
had on glasses yesterday, you don't today.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. They were like, "Oh, did you forget your contacts?" Like literally,
right? Like,
they don't care.
if anything,
They don't care. They don't even realize like how big of a moment this is. Right? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, isn't that funny? Like I'm like reckoning on the inside, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But that is so important. And, that may have been my effort moment, and others may have similar moments that were so big to them. But it could also be those small shifts too.
Mm-hmm.
For you, your effort moment could have been not cutting your hair, but it started from just, I missed an appointment. I don't
Yeah.
even know how intentional that was for you, but it just built on to create your story of expression and
Mm.
how you wanted to show up. And I think
Yeah.
that that is beautiful too, and equally as important as my moment, because it also doesn't have to be, I don't know, some heroic story too. Like I
Yeah.
appreciate my moment and I appreciate others where it's just like, yeah, I forgot to do this and it just transformed. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah. 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 It's so interesting. So, how do you help folks have like moments like that then in your practice? As because I have some thoughts on like how I've done it and supported clients, but I'm curious for you, how have you supported clients and having like moments like that, those aha moments of authenticity?
Yeah. Ooh, what's really been showing up lately for my clients is giving lots of space.
Mm.
I think one of the most underrated things when it comes to coaching is like the silence and being able to sit in the silence and be there as a listener, and not coming in with your own agenda. I
Mm.
think it's easy for us to, you know, have that initial session and you have this big goal that folks want to go towards and you start action planning and checking in on those items. But some of my most powerful sessions lately have been, let's come in with an agenda, but opening up the space of like, I know we wanted to talk about this, and this is your time. What do you want to make sure we just discuss today? And when I tell you like the outpours of this is what's been going on at work, this family member has passed away, I'm dealing with
Mm.
this in my marriage, and just leaving space to just process those things and then ask, okay, like, what do we want to do next? Like, what
Mm.
direction do we want to take? And finding just space and really like the underlying issues of how do we move forward in just like the space of just listening and letting
Mm.
people like we all have the answers. Sometimes we just need space to express and process and maybe a couple questions from a coach to get there. I found that that's been very powerful, in my practice. And I'm
Mm.
curious your thoughts and what's been happening for you there. And I want us to talk about some themes too that have been maybe popping out from that, because I have one specific theme that's been coming up for my clients, and I'm curious if you found it in your sessions too.
Yeah, so I absolutely love that. I think I want to just echo that is one of the things that I do, who is like provide that space. Um, but there was something in there that I lean on as well is like providing that space, but also asking the question and allowing the wisdom to come out of them. So, one thing you already mentioned the space, but what I'll do is I'll ask like they'll ask me like, hey, like what do you think about this? And I'm like, what do you think about this? And then just reflect the question back to them, because I truly believe like that given the space, we are able to explore all of the wisdom and knowledge that exists within us. And so like I think that's the beautiful work of a coach, like a really good coach, is like they give that they have that container for folks to do that. And so that's my little tip trick way of supporting. And the things that folks like divulge or like share or acknowledge. Like yesterday I had a coaching call and somebody said, am I overthinking this? Am I like cutting myself short or whatever? I'm like, do you think you're cutting yourself short? And we did a roundabout for close to 10 minutes. And then I just, did the thing as like, it's a yes or no question, man. So
Yeah.
I think like yes or no. And he was avoiding saying yes. And that was the thing. And so like even embracing that yes, and then also supporting and coming in of like, that's not a negative thing. You feel like it's negative. Why do you feel like it's negative? And just like going through those things is those are the beautiful moments. Like that's what I see, and I'm like, I love what I do. But as far as themes of things that I'm seeing come up in this season, it's like it's a lot of like self-doubt. A lot of folks not feeling like they know what they're doing and they feel like they have to have it figured out in a time where it is like incredibly chaotic, right? Where things, particularly in the job market, society, the world, like I think folks are grasping on some kind of control and they are not having it, and it's not helping that they're applying so much and not finding a role or getting even callbacks and stuff like that. So that's what I'm seeing right now. Folks really, really wanting something to like settle into, and it's just not there, and it is overwhelming. And I can relate personally, but yeah, that's one of the things that I'm noticing. How about you?
Oh, and I want to share themes, and then I also want to go back to just the process you were talking about with
Yeah.
coaching and what you're saying, and that cycle. But something that is coming up consistently in my conversations is confidence, and people actually naming like I want to build on my confidence. I've had conversations where we're talking about a presentation and confidence comes out. I want to apply for management, but confidence comes out. Um, Confidence and reckoning with perfectionism too, and how do I find self-worth when maybe I do something that's wrong, and holding how do you respond after you're wrong or when you make a misstep, and detaching that from identity has been big. And I can personally relate to that as somebody who deeply cares, is deeply sensitive, and is a recovering perfectionist of, yeah, that reckoning is tough. Um, but I really appreciate what you shared around reflecting questions back and even going through the cycle, and allowing the client to get to know, like allowing them to actually say it aloud, I think is really powerful. Um, in spaces where I don't know if they would say that even to themselves. And I think there's a lot of power in letting someone like hear the answer, and for you to share, like there's no judgment on yes or no. Like you just said yes or you just said no. How do you want to feel about it?
Yeah.
Because words aren't inherently charged. Like we can just have noticings without judgment. Like we can judge them later, but like let's actually get to what you're noticing first.
Yeah. One of the things I've worked through myself is like having like a ton of self-compassion, and this is like a practice that I'm really, really trying to embody, and I actually put it into my career joy framework that I created, where it's just like really acknowledging your emotions and feelings, and then maybe even like speaking to them, right? That inner critic or something like that, or maybe that alter ego, whatever, right? Sometimes I do this exercise of the two selves, where it's like the true self, false self, or whatever. Like, what are the lies that are being told? What is like actually true? But instead of like being mean to that, like inner critic, alter ego, whatever, it's actually like giving that voice a little bit more space to understand where that's coming from. So if you're anxious or fearful or angry, like where is actually that coming from? And for me, a lot of times where I felt that, it was actually, his name is Johnny. That is my negative, my inner critic. That's uber negative, and critical. But his whole motivation is actually to protect me from rejection. Like that is the ultimate thing that he's trying to. So when I feel like that anxious voice or that fear voice or that sad voice or sometimes angry voice, I try and like give space for it and be like, nah, bro, we're going to do this courageously and we're going to like lean into this. And I think I wrote about this sometime last year. I can't remember, but it's actually teaching that Johnny how to be courageous, how to be brave, how to be joyful, how to be happy, how to, that failure or rejection isn't a negative thing. It's just like, that's just a no, and we're just going to shift and change directions, or we're going to grow. Like it's really been an interesting ride. And so now I walk my clients through that too and invite them into that process as well. So I don't know if that like lands with you or if like you've done something similar with your clients, but that is something that, you know, that was a process for me. It still is a process for me. And I've found to be incredibly helpful to invite my clients through, not in like a therapeutic way, just more of like,
Right.
you know, yeah, what is actually going on here? Have you ever thought about listening to what is going on there? And then let's talk about it if if this is the right container to do so. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I really appreciate you calling out like not in a therapeutic way, but
Hmm.
what I'm picking up there is like in a forward moving way, because I know
Yes.
with therapy and coaching, like it can be a little icky. I've had
Yeah.
calls, and I'm sure you had too, or
Yeah.
have too, where people are like dumping and there's a lot of stuff happening, and you're listening and you're holding that container. But I think where the difference with the coaches is we're not diagnosing like a therapist would, but we're saying, I hear you on all these things. Like, how would you like to move forward? Like, what would you want it to look like? And I
Yeah.
think that's where the beauty and partnership of coaching comes in.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like your inner critic, Johnny, and I haven't named my girl,
Yeah.
but they're cousins for sure,
Yeah.
because that protection from rejection is so real.
Yes.
But something that I write about in the book, Awareness Put Me On, is the NOT approach. So it's notice, observe, and decide.
Mm.
So you're noticing what's coming up for you physically, mentally, emotionally. You're observing how you're sitting with that. Like, what is your reaction to that without judging those feelings? So maybe that no comes in. And then you decide what you want to do with
Mm.
that situation. And knowing that doing nothing is also very much a conscious action.
Yeah.
So that process resonates with me. Something else that I like to put in front of clients, since we're talking about values and authenticity and how you live those out, are a client is coming to mind where we've been talking about time management and balance quite a bit.
Mm.
And so she'll come to me and she'll share, Alana, I've been up since 5 a.m., got on the computer at 6. It's 7 p.m. for our session. I'm still working. But we've talked a lot about rest. And so I'll ask, how does the schedule you just shared with me honor your intention or your value of wanting to embrace rest?
Mm.
And so just, again, not in a judgment way, but truly, how do you feel about that schedule? How does it honor rest? Where is it falling short of what you need it to be? And let's talk about, okay, like what are little things that we can incorporate? And a big breakthrough for her was I shared, how about you just put something on your calendar where you have at least a 15-minute break every day? That was her glasses moment. That
Mm.
was her, I've never thought of that. And this
Mm.
is someone that's older than me that's been a professional for some time. And she was like, I've
Mm.
never thought of that. That's amazing. And it's been
Mm.
working so well for her.
Mm.
And so just being able to present it and like you shared, just reflect, hey, this is what you're saying. This is what you said you valued. How are those things working for each other's good? And where's the disconnect? And where can we like link it even, again, 1%, that incremental change?
Mm. That's such a really good example of like how like our values can really play into navigating our environments, navigating how we go about life.
Yeah.
And I know even for me, my values really, I've started to put my values in the forefront of like a lot of the things that I do, the opportunities that I seek, people that I work with, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really, really, what's the word? I've seen just a difference in like how happy I am, how easy things feel, even when they're like hard. But I'm just saying, like, there's a flow, a naturalness that comes with it. When I'm like, I
Yeah.
feel like values aligned in that way. And there's times where I don't feel it, where like, oh, this was cool in the beginning. I've had to make a shift, and I'm just wondering, like, what, trying to figure out how to make that shift. I'm curious for you, um, for this particular client. This is such a good example, like where like you bring that value or that idea of rest or that thing that you've talked about a lot to kind of like reset them and put that at the forefront. How else have you seen that play out, or maybe even for yourself? How do you try and use your values to find alignment again when you feel misaligned?
I love the way that you were able to bring language to that thing when you feel alignment because it really is flow.
Yeah.
Um, and so I actually want to bring up a moment between you and I when I knew that I was in this season, I've really been wanting to embrace community because I have
Mm.
been focused on motherhood so deeply. And so finding friends outside of, just my husband and like other mommy friends, but actually building out on more community and being intentional about the
Mm.
people that I'm reaching out to. I knew you were a good one on multiple occasions, but
Yeah.
specifically, we had a conversation scheduled. Gosh, this was months back. And I know I put down the baby for a nap and I was like, I know I need to talk to Jonathan, but I have to get out of the house. And so
Mm.
I went to the grocery store. I found some chocolate cake.
Oh yes, I
I don't know if
remember
you
this.
remember this.
Yes, I remember.
And we had our call, and I was like, Jonathan, I just want to let you know I've had a day. The baby's asleep, but I just really needed some chocolate cake, and I just needed to chill and chat. And we had such a good conversation, and we really
Yes.
dove into like laugh and learn and all the things we wanted to partner on. But
Yeah.
in that moment, I found such flow because I was able to really show up where I was at, which was I was tired. I wasn't in the best mood, but I knew I did not want to cancel that conversation. And I
Mm-hmm.
also knew that I needed some fucking chocolate cake. And so
Yes.
that's what I did for
Yes.
myself. And we had such a good
We
conversation.
did. We did.
And if we didn't have that flow and that ease, I don't know if I would have been able to show up that way. I think I still would
Mm.
have gone to the call out of obligation,
Mm.
but not out of, again, just this moment of just authenticity and true community building. And I think that that's like a big indicator for me is how am I feeling about a situation?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going into conversations where I feel like I have to qualify things like, oh, I want to tell you this, but also I understand if you have a different opinion. How am I showing up physically? Like, am I like very tight, shoulders up? Am I like
Mm.
feeling very guarded? Emotionally, am I feeling anxious about the conversation? Not in a way that I'm convicted because I care, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
so self-conscious of like, what do I need to say to be accepted by this person? These are all things that I'm thinking about of like, okay, are these the right spaces for me? And how am I checking? Am I showing up the way that I want to show up? And I think that
Mm.
also it goes into those systems conversations we were talking about
Mm.
because particularly with this election and particularly with this administration,
Mm.
I know we value community, we value diversity, and I think for protection, it looks different in different situations, and it doesn't mean we value diversity and inclusion less.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we also, there's a protection piece to how we express values, and that
Yeah.
doesn't make you any less than for things.
Yeah. I'm just gonna name it explicitly. I just need to be around black people because they get it, and I can't be around anybody else. It's less code switching. I don't have to pretend to be anybody else. I could
Yeah.
just breathe. I could vent. Um, you know, and I'm in an interracial marriage, and so like it's just really interesting. Like my wife gets it 100%. Like it's just she gets it 100%. So
Yeah.
and so like that's the thing. So but one of the things that I want to name is like you actually putting into practice for you your own method, nod. which is like, in that conversation, you noticed that like what you were feeling. Um, you became aware of what was going on. You identified what you needed, just like the observing portion of it, and just like, I'm just going to go do this. And then you decided to do it. And I think that what is cool about that is like the ease and flow happens when we're able to fully embrace where we're at and have the space to do it as well. And I think for me, somebody who, one, I'm a Leo, so I'm really vain sometimes, but also like the people pleaser slash like performance in me, like really wanting to perform, would have used to be like, I need to be show up perfect, everything needs to be fine, yada yada yada. Like even still today, I was stressing about light and all that stuff before we hopped on. But what has been beautiful in this season of life, particularly in the last 4 to 5 years, is like embracing this more authentic way of showing up, and the conversations that just feel so natural versus like if I was so in my head, super self-conscious before and not being able to show up as myself. Like it's been a breath of fresh air, like to have and find people that vibe the same way. It is truly, truly freeing. And for me, joy and authenticity, community, and equity are like my 4 values. Like those are my own personal values that I have. But joy and authenticity are deeply connected for me. And anytime I feel joy less, like is like a moment where I feel like I am not being truly authentic. And when I feel less authentic, I feel less joyless. So like for me, it's just, it don't feel right when those two aren't really happening. And so I'm curious for you, how do you see living in alignment with your values like potentially bring out more authenticity or maybe even more joy for yourself, for your clients? Like, yeah.
Ooh, and I'm so glad we're tapping on this and just like the laughter and the joy and like the lightness. I mean, we've been showing in this conversation of just like we're just showing up today, and we talked about this in our pre-chat of like we've already won because like we're talking and that's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And hoping that others feel like that freedom too of just doing the damn thing and just showing
Yeah.
up and doing it. Um, for me, I think in the last few years, I've worked through decoupling performance and my identity and needing to show up in a way because I am a Black woman. So I need to lead with being dominant, being on top of my game. Every team meeting, I need to give an update, and I'm the one that's so technical and in the numbers because I don't have like a very deep technical background, and like needing to perform and prove even before I open my mouth, like I'm on time. Here are my updates. Let me share this with you. Showing up on LinkedIn, like let me make sure I have a credited source so you really believe me. All those things, they continue to bleed into each other in a way where it's tiring to carry all of that. And so I think these past few years, I've given myself more permission just to like embrace like this silly side because you can look at my professional career, baby, I got it. You can look
Yes.
at my coaching career, the certs are there, the client reviews are there. Check Google, check LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I don't have to prove anything to anyone. My people know who I am, and the content that I'm producing and putting out into the world is known. I'm getting bookings, and I don't need to share that. I'm a best-selling author. I don't have to keep posting that to someone's face to give myself permission to be a little silly and a little funky at times. And so I think I've been the happiest that I've ever been on socials because I am rooted in, I know my shit, but I'm also going to put my swag to it. Well, that rhymes. That was low-key a bar, but we'll get to that
Come
later.
on, come on. We'll pull it out.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. But we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back for the people. That's for another day.
Come on,
But
now.
things like that, because again, we've talked about like those moments where I just felt so insecure and so like, oh, I can't like fully be me or even test who me even is because I was just trying to be quiet for so long. I'm really fully embracing me, and I'm hoping that by sharing the good stuff, but also there's a lot of not good stuff that comes with it. I've talked extensively on my socials around being an entrepreneur and being a mom and being tired, knowing that I always don't get it right. Like I flub on things too. And that's okay. And so sharing like also those silly moments and even the failures that happen, I hope that gives folks more permission to know like, oh, like she has bestseller in front of her name, but she also like wasn't chosen for this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I talked some time ago about being in a networking event. Done forgot my company's name, our purpose. I was literally just sitting there like this, just like, can you guys hear me? Can everyone, but that happens. And you
Yeah.
may see me in a certain light and you may see titles and things behind my name and what I do, but I'm also just human. And so
Mm-hmm.
allowing myself to put in some laughter, put in some silliness into the way that I would say something, in hopes that you do it resonates with you, but also if it doesn't, it wasn't for you by design,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay too.
Yes, yes. I have been saying this more and more often, particularly the last couple of years, that authenticity gives permission, right? Authenticity gives
Mm,
space. And it's really, really true. When it's, I'll say true authenticity, not that faux stuff, not that fake ass shit,
yeah,
But
yeah,
when it's really, really
yeah.
like true, you know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
really does give folks permission. Like a few months ago, I was doing a leadership training, like a manager training for one of my biggest clients ever. I've never had a client this big, like for me, and it was like a call of like I think like 75, 100 people, and
Yeah.
literally mid training, blanked, just blanked. I couldn't think of what I was saying mid sentence. Just had a ADHD moment, and I was just like, you know what, y'all, I just completely forgot what I was talking about. I don't
Mm,
know what's going on. I'm just gonna move on. And everybody, there was laughter. There was people like, I feel that. I'm ADHD too. All these different things, and
yeah.
it was just like a really actually cool moment. And I used that moment later on in the training because somebody was like, "How do I be more vulnerable with my staff?" Which is a wild statement. But Grace, I'll help you.
Grace.
But
Yeah.
I was able to like even use that moment. I was like, do you remember just 5 minutes ago when I just blanked? Right? I could have just played it off, you know what I mean? But I'm too cool to be embarrassed, you know what I'm saying? So it was actually really a powerful moment in that, and that just I could just feel the folks were already with me, but I could feel people just like really with me in that moment, and like I'd love to hear you say like, yeah, I got all the titles, search, whatever, but I'm
Mm.
embracing myself more and the silliness and goodness and whatever. And what is the opposite of embracing?
We're having a moment. Listeners, I want to
Yes,
share, we're having a moment,
I'm.
and that's
Em-
okay.
yeah, what opposite? What's the synonym? Antonym? What's the
Antonym,
thing? Yeah,
antonym of embrace.
opposite. I guess
To
reject.
retract,
I
reject.
don't know. The word's not coming. I thought that there was
Mhm.
another word for embracing. I guess it's rejecting. Let's just say that. All right. Well,
Yeah,
moving on. All right.
yeah,
Rejecting the performance piece, because
yeah.
I think honestly, like the performance has like our culture, society in a daggone chokehold. And to be quite honest with you, it still has me a lot, and I think it happens more so in like the last like year or two because like the creativity wasn't flowing as easily. So I'm just reverting
Mhm.
back to our in creativity wasn't flowing as easily in areas where it was easily flowing before. And I'm
Mm,
reverting to out of a place of scarcity into this performance mindset where like, all right, then I'm just gonna make sure it's perfect instead of being like
yeah.
me. And I am finding the perfectionist, the performance very, very hard. Where before it used to be easy. But I don't work that way no more. I don't operate that way no more. So it's just I love to hear that. Just like, rejecting of performance and
Yeah.
embracing of the just like you. Um, I like that.
I love it because I'm also the performance is so deep, and that's something, and I'm happy that we're naming that too. Like we're not exempt from that. Like I definitely do get into the performance culture and being like I need to show up and I need to do these things, shoulding yourself, right? Like I should be doing this. That's one of the reasons why I took a break from socials. I think it was November. I was
Mm,
like through January. And I was just like, as we're talking about rest, being restorative and taking time and space for yourself, I was so tired of going to work, filming for socials, taking care of the baby. Sometimes I'd be up at night till 10, 11, like really trying to perfect a video that may just get a few likes. And something else I want to name in here is the intention behind why you do something. My intention moved from being joyful and just experimenting with things for I need to convert clients and I need
that's the
to
word.
get all these likes.
Yeah.
And I was like, actually, no.
Hmm.
I'm tired and I'm just going to not. I'm not even
Yeah.
going to do once a week or once a month. I just stopped. And I'm happy that I had that moment because now I know I no longer need to work in that way. But
Hmm.
now when I'm showing up, I right here at my desk typing, I'm like, that is a funny idea. I just had this conversation with this friend. I'm just going to film it right now. Takes me like 5 to 10 minutes and I'm getting
Hmm.
engagements, I'm getting DMs. But the intention wasn't for that. The intention was to share. I wanted to show you how to protect your peace because like I'm going through that too. And if it
Yes.
resonates, great. And if it doesn't, like it wasn't for you and you can keep it moving. But I'm creating from a place again of joy, of authenticity, of what's relevant for me, not for I need to be this LinkedIn or Instagram superstar. I'm cool. I've made, and I can say this on this show, like I've made more money in those months than I had when I was producing regular content because I
Yes.
was investing in my community. I was networking. Something I posted was I was silent, not stagnant. And
Yes.
moves were being made. You may not have
Yes.
seen the moves because I was
Hmm.
protecting my energy, but
Hmm.
things were working for my favor there. Um, and I think that also speaks to this point of authenticity and like how much you share and oversharing
Yes. 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 Yeah.
because the two are not the same.
Not the
You can be
same.
authentic, you can be real, and you don't need to know what I ate, how it came out of me, what I'm eating next, who I'm talking to. You don't need to know all that.
Truly.
What's
Truly.
my intention behind that? And if you want to share that with the right intention and you can determine what's right for you based on your values, right? My values is not to be like Insta famous, LinkedIn famous. My
Yeah.
values to share with my community. And should that be a product of that, we'll see.
I love it. That's man, we gotta like understand how important boundaries are. I'm like literally a recovering oversharer. Uh, I've talked about this on another episode with my friend Jocelyn. Shout out her. Go buy her book.
Oh, yes, Jocelyn.
Where is her book? It's not in here. Um, Love is More Than Words. Great book. One of my favorite children's book of all time. So we were talking about coming from evangelicalism and both of us being in very, very, very white spaces, being only one of like 5 to 10. Um, and our stories, like the culture was like a lot of oversharing, like culture of oversharing, and kind of just like for us, definitely being like a part of the global majority, our stories being abused in that way, and just like oh, like this person, and then all of a sudden just like cast away, like oh, we just need you for this promotion or marketing event, or need you to get on stage and do this or whatever, and then when shit hits the fan, like nobody's there. You know what I'm saying? And so like I'm a recovering oversharer, and like when I started setting up boundaries of things that I didn't want to share with people after I got out of that space, and then said no, you actually don't have access to that. Like folks, you just saw who your true friends were, or even like their interest in you, right? Of like giving you space and everything like that. And it's just so interesting. And so when I see people share a little bit too much, I'm like, there's a compassionate side of me that comes up a little bit. But also of like, you know what? I'm gonna actually put up my own boundary from what you just shared because that's not, maybe you should talk to somebody else about that or something like that. So it's that's such a good point about oversharing. It's not the same thing. That could be fake
Mm-hmm.
authenticity too. It's oh goodness.
Mm-mm-mm.
Uh
Especially for
uh
folks like, I really want to keep talking about this just a little bit longer
no,
because
please, yeah.
I've seen people share like, oh, I want to post on LinkedIn, but like I don't know what to post, and like people are sharing all these achievements and that's just not me, and
Hmm.
people copying what they think are going to get clicks, and like the bro types of spacing out all your words and what's going to get
Yeah.
noticed. Um, and like you just don't have to do that.
Hmm.
Like you can really just write a few sentences, whatever feels, depending on what your intention is. If your intention is really just to show up and test some things, put that out there. But don't
Yeah.
feel like you need to go to a place where you're not safe within yourself and you are
Yes.
sharing things and it's not a safe environment. Like that is
Yes.
number one cue. Don't post it.
Yeah.
It's literally forever. No matter if you delete it,
Yeah.
somebody's algorithms got it.
Yeah.
Um, and you just don't have to do it that way. Like we all have our definitions of winning, but we can win and succeed a different way. And we don't have to do it that way, you
Mm.
know? And I just, yeah, that the chokehold that you're talking about, that gets me, goes to a deep place for me because I know there are
Yeah.
lots of people who want to express themselves, but
Mm.
feels like it's not going to be enough.
Mm.
And based on what someone else's story is going to be. So just like,
Hmm.
the one takeaway is just like your story is going to be appreciated even if someone doesn't like it or react to it. Like
Yeah.
it's going to touch and bless someone because that was your intention.
Yeah.
And that's what's important.
Yeah. Even with podcasting, I love to talk to other podcasters or people that want to start a podcast, whatever. And I'm like, do it. Like, what's stopping you? Do it. Do it. Do it. I'll help you. Do it. Do
Yeah.
it. Do it. Because I think they're like, oh, there's so many out there. I'm like, yes, but like, not everybody like keeps doing it. There's a lot of podcasts. Not everybody is podcasting still, and your story is different. Like if you be you, if you speak truly from like your background, your story, don't try and be anybody else. Like you can use people as an example. You can use people as like maybe the blueprint. But like leaning into you and your voice and what you
Mm.
have to offer to the world, to your point, you will win. Like because like the metric for success is just different for you. Like you creating this thing, creating this platform, writing that post, putting that thing up, like that is the win. Just like us being here today, like for the weeks that we're having, for the all the things that are going on in the world, for us to have this conversation right now in this moment with whatever we're carrying individually, to hold space, to truly uplift community, to truly uplift each other, encourage each other, so on and so forth, right? Like that is the win. And I think we can't underestimate the power of that. Like I think like it's hitting me now of like how much of a win this is just even today. So if you're hearing our voices, like you stepping into you giving yourself space to practice and permission to be, is like that's the win. Even if it's for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, like it's the win. I'll stop talking, but I'll give you space
Yeah.
to add on or share a little bit more. But that's just what's coming up for me as you share that. It's just
And that's a
uh,
beautiful review. Yeah. Same, times a million. Same. Yeah.
uh, so as we like wrap up because we've been chatting, it's been good. I final question for you. Like I know we've talked about it and probably give some practical stuff in here, but more at the forefront. For anyone who feels stuck, or trapped in how they're showing up, what would be the first step that they can take to realigning with their values?
I think listening to those data points and that information
Mm.
and how we were talking about just being very present with yourself and your environment, whether it be with a nod approach or saying true self and false self,
Hmm.
taking what you're experiencing as data points and because you're feeling them, because you're feeling out of place, regardless of how anyone else evaluates it, something needs to change.
Hmm.
And like allowing yourself the permission to say aloud, like, I'm not feeling right. I need to explore this deeper.
Mm.
Perhaps it's some internal stuff that you can reckon with, but perhaps it's something external where you need to remove yourself. Um, I just say a simple step is just taking notice and then seeing what you want to do with that thing. is important.
I
And knowing
like
that
that.
that's enough and that can lead to change is just taking a little bit more noticing.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And finding that space too. Like just crafting that space, like asking yourself, noticing, but like being purposeful in that space, whether it's that question or physically going to be alone or going on a walk or going in your room or putting your headphones on and putting some nice soft music on or whatever that looks like for you. I think the purpose and a word that you've used a good amount today that I like is intention. Like setting that intention to do that is like a really really powerful first step. Um,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
actually will
that's
add one more thing to that,
yeah, 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 yeah.
because I know that in certain spaces right now, there's privilege for us to be in this, like, this is like my chocolate cake eating, chilling. This is my homie. Like, we can do it, right? And I want to very bluntly name in the Trump administration, there's an attack on inclusion in spaces where people belong.
Oh
And you
yeah.
may be showing up into workplaces where everything I just told you to notice, you're like, Alana, this shit is wrong. Like, I've done it, Alana. Like, what's next? And so I just want to remind you that there are certain things that are within your control and without your, not in your control, the words. Um, and that is okay because you
Mm-hmm.
can still find moments. Like with my client, her day is filled with meetings and schedules, but she has put in 15 minutes of just like a breath.
Mm.
Sometimes it's 5 minutes for a breath. So if you find yourself in those spaces where you know you're not safe and you need a check, because those
Mm-hmm.
very much exist,
Yep.
where can you embrace your value of wellness for yourself, even just to carve out like a break from the
Mm.
nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where can you evaluate what your inputs are? You don't have to comment on that group chat. You don't. You don't
Yep.
have to post the comment if it's going to protect your peace in that moment. So I just want to encourage people in those places too of like, I understand everywhere is not safe. I'm not ignorant to
Mm-hmm.
that point. And you can still find permission and control in small doses, even if it's 1%. That is better than sitting in 100% of non-safety and not being in
Yes.
alignment.
Yeah. And well, we could go on for a long time on this, but I want to just like add
Yeah.
to that too of like uh honestly, The Rest is Resistance, a manifesto, Trisha Hersey's book, like it was literally transformative for me. The best book by far I read last year. And in there she like literally hammer puts forth the point and reiterates it throughout the book is that like rest and like creating moments of pause and setting boundaries, all these different things, it's not a privilege. It is it's a right. Like we were born into it. Like it's us. And so like when you need to take that breath, take that breath. When you need those moments, find those small pockets of moments to do those things. Because yeah, if you yes, the privilege to have like full days and like take away that time is not something everybody can do. But you can breathe. Like you
Yeah.
can not comment. You could do those and like you are allowed to do that. You're more than allowed to do that. Um, and I just like remember those days, times when I was trapped. I felt trapped, felt like I couldn't go or do anything. And the very least I could do was breathe. And it was just life giving to me. It's just to like take that hot second to just, all right, let's go, you know? Um, because it's going to be a long 4 years. And it is literally not, what's the word? It is not, we're not meant to be angry like this all of the time, nor is it like sustainable to be angry at every little thing, every news headline that we see. And so one of the pieces of advice that I'm seeing is like mitigate how much information you're consuming a day, news that you're consuming a day, because
Yeah.
we are going to have to protect our peace somehow. And so, yeah, that's all a little bit I would add. Um, Sweet. Any other final thoughts? Things that I didn't like, things that we didn't cover. Maybe you want to add a little something. How you feeling?
No, I think that's a wonderful spot to end on is it is innately human to breathe.
Mm,
And so give yourself the right to be human and breathe. And that's so beautiful.
I love it. Appreciate you, fam. Where can folks find you? This was such a wonderful conversation. Where can folks find you? Tap in with what you're doing. I'll be sure to put all those links and everything, especially your best-selling book, because you're an author. An
That's
author.
correct. She but
Yeah. Yes. I'll include it in the show notes. But where can folks tap in with you?
I appreciate you. It's at Alawna Ozoka everywhere. And by everywhere, I mean LinkedIn and Instagram because boundaries of where we're posting.
Yes.
And you can
Yes.
also sign up for updates at alawnaozoka.com.
Yeah. So I'll put all of those links in the show notes. This was absolutely wonderful, refreshing, all of the things, Alana. And as I said, y'all, this is the final episode of the Performing Authenticity series. I know I took a longer than preferred break, but I mean, we're Trump won, so I mean, I don't know what else to
And
say.
fakeness check,
Yeah,
you passed the test. So thank you
yeah,
for that. This isn't
yeah.
fake. Yeah.
No, he won. I didn't. I downtrodden and exhausted. I didn't have any energy to post. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to do it. Um, and I I need a break. So this is it for right now, and we'll be back. So I'm so glad that we tapped in with you, Alana, to end and close out this series. This was a fun time, and I appreciate you. And yeah, all the things. We'll be chatting again soon, fam.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much. And I appreciate you in this space.
of course. See you.